We're up. Let's see if it's up. Good evening and welcome to Crow Chat tonight on a late start due to technical difficulties. It is good to be with you this evening. Becky, can you check and see if we're on? This is episode 36 of Crow Chat on this January the 18th, 2021. It's a time when we are celebrating Martin Luther King Jr.'s holiday that we have, and we are grateful to be able to share together with you tonight an important message on attentiveness. And I'm glad you're with us tonight. Sorry for the difficulties at the beginning. Crow Chat is a time that we really want to come together and develop a culture of learning, a time of listening, a time of sharing together, where we can thoughtfully approach life issues. Those life issues may be a biblical question, a spiritual issue. It may be an experience you've had, a relational, theological, or philosophical issue. It can be a cultural issue like we've had recently in our country. Your life questions matter. So if you have questions, if you have comments, we'd love to see them in the chat tonight. I'm having difficulty seeing those now. We may get those up in a moment. But what we are doing, we'd love to have your questions come in ahead of time so that we could address those questions directly and personally to you, as well as in our time together. Tonight I want to talk to you about attentiveness. Life is better when I'm attentive. During the Better Life series that we've been sharing at the Church at Covenant Park, and we invite you to come and be with us there or online. We have one congregation that meets all over the place, whether online or at the facility at the Church at Covenant Park, but we are one body in Christ. But during that series, we've been focusing on conversations that Jesus had with people in the Gospel of John. And we are not recapping those in Crow Chat. What I'm giving during these times is additional information, and that has an aspect and an application of that to our life. So tonight we do alertness. It's another application of the idea we saw yesterday when we talked about the very fact of having a fresh vision for life. Fresh visions usually require other people, and that means we need to be attentive. Attentiveness is often confused with alertness. Being alert is when you notice what's going on around you. Being alert is being trained and focused on things that are moving, that are changing, that are, and then calculating how to react, how to respond to those. Attentiveness is more focused on an individual. It's focused on a situation, perhaps, a problem, a possibility, and attentiveness considers that fully. Attentiveness means you really focus mind, emotion, will to that. It produces more than a reaction. It produces a response, a measured response, typically that allows you to have a level of care and concern that you do not have when you just live off of impulse. Attentiveness is especially powerful when it's trained on people. People crave attentiveness. You and I crave that. We want to have a God who hears us. We want to have a value with God and to understand that we matter to Him. Jesus was a master at seeing people. He could see an individual within a crowd. He knew how to look at not only the masses of people, but the individuals within that crowd. He saw that the sheep, he says in Matthew 9, were like sheep without a shepherd. And it said he had compassion upon them. Now, he wasn't having compassion on this whole group of people, this whole city, this whole world. There is a sense that God so loved the world. The world that is, there is the word for love, is commitment. He was committed totally to this world. But Jesus came and showed compassion. He showed attentiveness, as he did not just come to save the whole world, even though he did restore the world, reconcile the world, and he will one day restore that world to his image. He came to focus that toward people, toward you, toward me. It does not mean that we're the most important parts. No, it means that God is that good. He is that attentive. He is aware of the numbers of the hairs on your head, said Jesus. He is aware of the sparrow that falls to the ground. He is aware of the need of the orphan, of the widow. He is aware of the poor. He's aware of all levels of life. So tonight we want to see that Jesus not only had that quality, he wants us to have that quality. Attentiveness is that allows Jesus to see the blind man that we saw in John 9 yesterday when they were walking into a crowded area in the temple complex. And he sees them, he sees that man out of many beggars. There wouldn't have just been one beggar. There are rows of beggars. Matter of fact, if you go to that Jerusalem today, you'll still see rows and rows and rows of people who do not have what they need, and they beg. And they ask, just for the very basic essentials of life. Jesus sees this blind man. Everybody saw him. All of them saw these beggars, but Jesus noticed this one. And when he stopped, the word is interesting. It says Jesus observed him. And not just that he glanced and saw him. He apparently fixed his attention to this person. And when he did so, he did that in a way that drew attention because he gave attention. The disciples were alert to the crowd. Anytime there was a crowd, they saw the opportunities with that crowd. They saw the potential of that. They saw perhaps the problems. And when they said, how are we going to feed all these people? They saw the crowd. They were alert to that. They weren't attentive to the needs. And Jesus said, these people are hungry. Let's feed them. And then he got every one of them food, not just throughout one big lunch. No, he fed them all. We see that Jesus, when he was walking on his way to Jerusalem, he passed through Jericho. And he sees this guy there named Zacchaeus. Now, where was Zacchaeus? He was up in a tree. And he was there. He was up in the tree because he was too small to see over the people. Jesus saw him up in the tree. And it's interesting. Jesus said, Zacchaeus, come down. He called him by name. In the middle of all this parade of people, Jesus calls this one guy by name. And then he says the most amazing thing. He says, I want to have dinner with you. I want to come to your house. The story is beautiful. That Zacchaeus embraces this new king of the Jews. He has some type of spiritual moment, and he says, I've been stealing from people. I'm going to restore 4 times what I've stolen. I'm going to give back. Jesus took time in the middle of a crowd with children. He would stop and remember the disciples would say, Jesus, leave the children alone and let's go. You got more important things to do. And Jesus said, leave them alone. He said, the kingdom is much like these children. He was attentive. In John 3, he was attentive to Nicodemus. In John 4, he was attentive to the woman at the well. He's patient with Thomas, that we will see in John 20 when Thomas is doubting, chapter 21 actually. We see that he is very forgiving and loving to Peter as he restores him in chapter 21. We see that Jesus was a master at attentiveness. Now, it's a quality that impacts the lives of people you meet. When you're attentive to somebody, they are kind of amazed by it. They'll say, how do you remember my name? I can't remember somebody's name. How do you know my birthday? When I have friends that'll say, because I'll write them cards and do that, and the reason I do that is they said, how do you remember our names? I said, I have a Becky. Becky is the one that keeps me to where it makes me look like I'm very attentive. Becky is the one, but I do like to send the birthday greetings and to say that to long-term friends that I've had that are around the world today. So how do we get attentiveness to pray? And not just to think I'll pray one day, but to pray now and to take time to do that. It's that quality of attentiveness. So I want to give you a few things about how to be attentive, and then I'll close with a word about the day today as well. The first is to be attentive, you've got to be present in the moment. You've got to not be trying to get somewhere else. One of the things I do not like about being a pastor is that when I'm talking with somebody, I'm aware that on a Sunday in particular, after a gathering, that I want to see either newer people who've come, just to give them a personal welcome, to say that they matter, to be attentive to them, I also want to be able to minister to whoever's needs. But if I'm talking with somebody and I see somebody starting to leave, I can't act like that doesn't happen. But I hate to say, hey, you're not important. I want to go talk to this one. There are times that I will say, this is a new person. I need to go talk to them. Would you please let me do that? Excuse me, I'm going to go do that. Jesus loved the present. He did not get fixated on trying to get to the future. He let the future come to him. See, if it had, when I look back at some of the immature things I've thought as I've read the Bible as a young man, I was going like, why did Jesus wait till he was 30 to start his ministry? What could he learn? He was God incarnate. He was fully God, fully man. Certainly he knew everything he needed to know. Apparently that's not true. Jesus learned. It says he grew in understanding. He grew in wisdom and knowledge and in favor and physically with God and with man. Jesus didn't hurry it. He came as a baby. He could have dropped into this planet any way he wanted. He could have come as a full-grown man. He could have just appeared, just like he did in the upper room after he had been resurrected. He could have done any number of ways. If I had been the one writing it back in my early immature days, I would have just had Jesus come the last week of his life. Because what really matters is that Jesus dies for the world and he's resurrected and saves the world. Yeah, that's important. That's the reason he came. Jesus said, this is the hour I've come. Certainly that was it. But that wasn't the whole thing that he did. It says in the fullness of time, God sent his son. And he sent his son in the fullness of ways and wisdom. He was attentive to the present. He doesn't want to just come and die and get it over with and be born again. No. We would have skipped the training of the 12. And I wonder if that's why often in ministries we often focus on the larger meeting, the gathering, the Sunday sermon, and not like that's the big thing. No, it's the training of people. It's raising up leaders. It is working inside our group life experience with our groups where we develop people and we grow people where they grow. That is how we learn to develop. We have attentiveness to people, to who they are, to what they need, and where they need to go. We are working to help them. So God's way is to be attentive, and that means we start by being present. A second thing it means that I think is we have to be observant. Now, obviously, observant and attentiveness is very close, but train your eyes to look at people's faces. Look for their eyes. Look for their smiles, the facial expressions, and give your best smile when you see somebody. I mean, let them know you care. I mean, if you can see a name tag of somebody, if you're in any service industry, doesn't matter what they do. I had to buy a car battery the other day, and I got the guy's name by phone, and usually they'll say, this is so-and-so business, and this is so-and-so, how may I help you? And I'll say, I want to make sure I got your name. You are this, and you call their name. It was really interesting the other day. I did that, and I had to call back the car to the parts store, and when I did so, I said, I need to talk to, and I said the man's name. And they said, well, he's not here right now. I said, well, I want to make sure he gets credit for this sale because he's the one that helped me know what I need to do. And, the guy called back, and he was very grateful for that. And when I went to order it and put the battery order in, because they have to bring it from somewhere else, when I did that, he said, I really appreciate you remembering my name and doing that. And it gave me a chance to really share, and we were able to share our backgrounds and some of the things about that. I would love to say that I led him to Christ. I didn't do that. But I did bless his life, and I bless his, and I will see him when that battery comes in to take back, and I'm just praying for him, and from now to then. Jesus was observant. And by the way, just think about it this way. Somebody shared this with me years ago. A crowd, what did he see? And he said, what was he looking for? And then the person said this. He said, what would a policeman see if they looked at a crowd? What are they looking for? What would a doctor see? What does a coach see? What does a teacher say? What do they see? What are they looking for? Jesus addressed who he was with. He was looking. And so therefore he could treat Nicodemus with grace, knowing who he was. The woman at the well with grace. The blind beggar with grace. Know who you're talking. Be observant. Third, be sensitive. Now we talked about this last week. Sensitivity is realizing the perspective of others. It's being aware of their feelings, their understandings, and that's a huge thing. We think that we understand people. We think that we know their perspective just because we know some facts. That's not true. Be sensitive to people. Listen to them. Somebody came up to me yesterday and said, I love the statements you made. And they said, I don't know if it originated with you or not, but they said when you shared, seek to understand more than to be understood. And I was able to say, that's really not me. I got that from Stephen Covey. And I'm very grateful, for the different ways people have blessed my life and given me words that are worth living with and living by. But seek to understand others more than to be understood yourself. Instead of thinking how you're going to say it, think about how they're going to hear it and how you might communicate that in a more effective way. So be sensitive, be observant. Excuse me, be present. And then this fourth one, I just like the way I said it, be soft. Soft means be receptive. You can either repel people or receive people. Your attitude, we'll either appear to be a jellyfish that would be kind of soft, even though we're afraid of them rightfully so, or you can be a shark. The shark, you're just going to run from it. Be cuddly. Be the teddy bear in that sense. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're receptive. Accept people, don't ignore people. Acceptance need not mean approval. It means you give a value to someone and you give a value to where that person is, even if you think that person ought to be somewhere else. I think often we're not soft enough because we're trying to either get an answer across, we're trying to win a convert to our opinion, or we are trying to force our way, and force may be too strong of a word, but we try to do that and bring that along. I would encourage you to be able to look and see people and have that softness, that receptivity. I think that if we could see Jesus, if we could have seen him, he would have been the most accepting and the softest guy, even though he had a character like a rock and a will and a backbone of the man's man. I think at the same time there's a reason children loved him. There's a reason children came to him. Children read your spirit. And when we are soft, people know, I can talk to this person. The next last thing is be mature. Be mature. Maturity is when you can accept others in varying degrees of maturity. The more mature should be able to have the greatest latitude. When we have that maturity, it allows us to establish common ground and to look for it. It means that we can accept the weak. Now, we're going to help them. Maturity means you're not going to leave them there. You see where they are, you see where they need to go, and you help them. I had a staff member one time that I loved. He's just one of my dear friends. And he would say this to me as we got to know each other and work together over a period of a number of years. He would say sometimes when we were dreaming together and thinking, he would say, Dan, that's not one of your better ideas. And I knew when he said that, I just need to throw that thing away. That was not good. And he had such a way, I love him for that. He had such a good way, and he saw life totally different than I would. But he would just say, Dan, that's not one of your better ideas. Most of the time, but he said, when you get your ideas, I will help them come to life. He was a valued staff member and a blessing. And I love him today. Hello, Dale in Chicago. Yeah. But anyway, be mature. Accept people where they are, instead of demanding they receive you where you are. Immature people have to say, hey, notice me, here I am. Mature people say, let's see what we have here, and let's work with it, and let's grow it. I'm really grateful that the Church of Covenant Park has a maturity about it that allows people to be who they are, where they are. We receive everyone. Everybody is welcome at Covenant, which means it's going to sometimes be chaotic a little bit. It's going to feel that way sometimes. It means that we exercise a lot of grace to be able to say, we receive you, we value who you are, and we want to walk with you. Doing life together, being able to connect with others, means you've got to have all these qualities of attentiveness. Otherwise, we won't care. And it allows us then to connect to God. When we are attentive, we can share and love with each other toward God. Maturity is a very, very important thing. I really appreciate the way that the Church at Covenant Park has approached change, has approached different problems we faced, how we have approached this pandemic, and we rolled with it, and we figured a way to go forward. And it's not the way that any one of us would have defined life the way we wanted it, but you know what we found out? Together, we can approach this, and we don't have to say, well, one day we'll get back. No, we're back now. God is working. Things are changing. We don't know how long this thing will last, but what we do know is Jesus is forever, and Jesus is good right now, and we can trust him. So the sixth thing that I would say is first, again, just to recap, these are not linear. You don't build on these. These are just like a collage of things that attentiveness is. It is present. It's in the moment. It's observant. It is indeed sensitive. It is flexible. It is soft. It is mature. And then we come to flexibility. We're going to talk about that right now. Being flexible means you realize the need for different norms. You may have a norm, but there is a normal. There's a new normal. That's what COVID's taught us. There's some new normals that we have. I'm indebted to Andy Stanley for this statement. I really appreciate his ministry there from North Point Church in Atlanta, but and his far-reaching TV and what he does with print. By the way, don't believe everybody you see on TV. Don't believe every book that's printed by supposedly and noted Christian authors. I would encourage, but Andy Stanley's the guy you can go to the bank with. I really thank God for him. But I enjoy watching him on a regular basis due to my wife. She's the one that got me there, and I'm grateful for it. But he has a statement. He says, "No for now does not mean no forever." That's such a powerful principle, not only relating to parenting, which is what he was using it with, but there are times we say, this is not a good thing to do right now. It doesn't mean we won't ever do it. When my children started getting old enough to drive and to learn to drive, I would say, well, we're going to work on getting your license. But they say, but our other friends have it right away. So, well, we're not doing it that way in our house. We're going to learn to work for insurance. We're going to learn to learn some maturity before you get in a car that can, number one, kill somebody as well as deliver somebody. We're going to be flexible on this. But that idea of you say no, but it doesn't mean no forever. It's no for now, not no forever. That helps you all the way through your life. Becky and I have to come to situations as we age that we'll say, we're not going to do that now, but you know what? Doesn't mean we won't ever do that. So you're not only being flexible when you do that, you're training other people to be flexible around you as well. It's a tremendous tool to have. So attentiveness means that you are able to pay attention to people and things that matter in a fast-moving age. It's amazing how much your computer can pay attention to you. Clickbait and those type of things, and you can hit it, and it knows what you want, knows where you go. If you get on Netflix, it'll recommend things to you. That machine's trying to be attentive to you, but it's not. It's only going off of your past. It doesn't know where you're going. Attentiveness allows you and me to focus on where somebody's been, where they are, and to help them get where they need to go and where they want to go. That's one reason I love Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Dr. King did not just see how the world was. He saw how the world could be. He saw how the world should be. He said, I'm looking forward to a day when my children and our children are not judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Now, that wasn't happening when he said those words. It happened very rarely when he said those words. Some people did that, but most did not. He knew he was speaking what I would call a prophetic word. He was calling forth a future that should be because it's a righteous thing. It's a good thing. It was God's plan for this planet, for us to live in that kind of way. God does not gauge and judge people by their ethnicity. He does not judge them by their color, their race. He judges them by their heart. And, it's such the common adage, we all bleed red blood. We are of one blood. And Jesus came and shed his blood for all of us. Dr. King came to teach and to preach to our nation. And oh, that he had lived. I often have said to the Lord at times in my life when I've seen the good die young, what Dr. King did, and by the way, he was 39 years old when an assassin's bullet cut him down at the Lorraine Hotel in Memphis, Tennessee. 39. What a powerful, mature man. I've got something to share with you that, Becky, can you get that? It's over on it's the second copy I made. I just don't have that right now. But the thing that I want to read something to you that he said, and I think it's a very important thing for you and me to see. And I do want to say one thing here that may stretch all of us a little bit here, and that is this. We live in a day where because of our insensitivities, we have these things called diversity training, and those things can really, really wear you out. And we say, why do I need that? The reason we need diversity training, and I'm not saying that all diversity training is excellent or it's good. I'm not saying that at all. I've been in some diversity training meetings where the presenters really, really weren't good. And it makes you to be less sensitive, not more sensitive. But the reason we need diversity training, and the reason we react to it, but first we need it because we're not sensitive to others. We may think we are. I can never forget when I'm dealing with people from other cultures. I don't know what it's like to be an immigrant in this country. I don't know that. I've never had to deal with the citizenship process and naturalization. I don't know that. I don't know what it's like not to have English as a first language. I don't know what it's like to have skin that is not white or whatever shade this is. I don't know what that's like. I don't know what it's like to be a woman. I don't want to know what it's like to be a woman. I've got a good woman, and I love my wife. But I don't know what that's like. And for me to say that there's no such thing as sexism, that's foolish. If I say I don't see it, I'm not the one to judge. Woman is the one to judge that. When I'm colorblind, people of color need to tell me that we are colorblind. Otherwise, I've had people say, I think I'm being discriminated against. And it's not for me to say, how would you feel discriminated? No, they are from that point. So we all need some level of sensitivity to check those things and that we react. It's not being humanized to us. When we one day have a friend who is of whatever the thing that you're being sensitized to, there was a time I was very homophobic. I was raised that way. That was the culture I was in. And then I had a gay friend. And the gay friend had not come out. He came out to me. And I was the one religious leader he came out to. And, the fact is, man, it bugged me. It made me react to him differently. And I had to really struggle with that because I'd loved this friend. And you know what? It sensitized me to where I realized, you know what? I'm not getting it. That's true with people of color. That's true with other ethnicities. And it doesn't mean we all become one and we all become alike. No, we're one in Christ. But we never lose our background. And that's the beauty of it. You can be genuine and be attentive. You can give love because love is attentive. Now, Dr. King, the last night of his life, or last night before he died, 18 hours later, he said these words, and I find this to be just incredible. He preached a sermon the night before he died in Memphis, Tennessee. He had gone there because of the garbage collector strike, and he went there speaking for an equitable wage. Some things never change, do they? And by the way, it's amazing how little the minimum wage changed from then to now. It's unbelievable. Um, but here's what Dr. King said. He said, and some began to say the threats and the talk about the threats, they're out, Martin. What will happen to you from some of those who are sicker and those who hate you? He said, well, I don't know what will happen now. And I'm reading this. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it doesn't matter to me now because I've been to the mountaintop. And I don't mind. Like anybody, I would love to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that just now. I want to do God's will. That's what I just want to do. He's allowed me to go to the mountain. And I've looked over. And I've seen the promised land. And I may not get there with you. But I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. And I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man because mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. As a guy who stands and preaches on a regular basis, I want to be able to have a heart. You want to be able to have a heart that's attentive to the moment we're in and attentive to the people who are in it. That's what Jesus is. Jesus came in the fullness of time, and he brought the fullness of love, the fullness of grace, and the fullness of truth to our hearts that we might be his. That's why we worship him. That's why we love him. And that's why him. Until next Monday night, this is Crow Chat and Dan Crow. God bless you until next week.